Hello and welcome to Called Bank Sports. Here's our post-game analysis for the Utah Jazz losing to the Golden State Warriors tonight in what was really just a rough game. It's super disappointing to see Rudy Gobert just put up an amazing stat line. Let me go to the box score to make sure I'm reading it correctly. So he put up in his only 32 minutes, 8 of 10 from the field, 8 of 13 from the free throw line, which is pretty good, especially for where he's been at in the past. He was able to score 24 points, grab 28 rebounds, 8 of those on the offensive side, get a couple steals and 4 blocks. So just a really special night from him, showing how he can be really capable with the ball in his hands, but just not enough from the rest of the team as the Jazz fall to Golden State 131 to 119, losing by 12 points. So from what I saw and looking at it, the Jazz just were able to get those 20 plus point games from Gobert, Conley, Mitchell, and Clarkson, and they just needed one more player to show up. O'Neal was 1 for 4 from 3. Bojan was 1 for 7 from 3. Ingles had a nice night with 2 for 6, but he only put up 8 points total. And Niang was just 1 of 3. So when you have that along with Favors just playing really poorly tonight, it just didn't put the Jazz in a great position to win. So looking at it, it's just a tale of the plus minus. So you have Gobert at plus 11, Conley at plus 9, Niang at plus 14, Clarkson at plus 6. And everyone else was in the negative, where O'Neal was at negative 18, Bojan was at negative 24, Mitchell was at negative 26, Ingles was at negative 9, and Favors was at negative 23. So you just kind of see where you have, I believe, 4 of the 9 Jazz players that played in the positive and 5 in the negative. And Ingles was the only one who was in the negative single digits. So just overall, the Jazz have had a really rough go to start up after the All-Star break. And they ended with those losses to the 76ers and the Pelicans before the break. So the last few years, the Jazz always have those moments where they shine really brightly. And the majority of the first half, they just played amazing. But right now it looks like they're in their slump. And it seems that Coach Quinn Snyder sometimes just has trouble making adjustments. Like he's able to build this great team and put together a good offense. But then when things aren't working, he struggles to find a way to fix those in game. And tonight, where Favors just had a really rough night, and Gobert, who I believe, let me check his minutes average, I believe averages 36, 37 minutes a game, just only played 32 tonight. And you wonder, with how well he was playing, if he hits that average, if he ends up just playing a lot better. So I guess I'm wrong. He's averaging just under 31 minutes. I do wonder if you factor out blowout time and do those things where he's at, since the Jazz have definitely had a lot of games where they don't need Gobert to come in the latter half of the fourth quarter. But the Jazz constantly were getting back within a possession this game, and then they just kept letting it slip away. And one thing that shows is the importance in the NBA of staying in the game in the first quarter. Once you get down by 10, it's really hard to get back in it, since even if you do what the Jazz did and get within one possession, you have to keep pushing until you take the lead. And they just were never able to regain the lead and keep that momentum. So there are multiple things that you can factor in, but I would take this game as well as the Jazz, losing 3 of their last 4, I believe, and the Rockets game not being that impressive with how depleted Houston's lineup was. The Jazz really need to step it up, and this road trip is going to be a hard time to do it, but I hope to see them come out strong Tuesday night against Boston. And that's one of the things that's concerning, is when you've had some rough games and you just don't seem to be in rhythm and things aren't working, to have to go on the road, play in some back-to-backs, fly around, play a really good team in Boston. And I haven't taken a look at Boston's injury list, but that game against Boston in February was a close game. So this game is going to be hard, and the Jazz are going to have to become the team that they were on that run, on that stretch of winning 25 of 26 or whatever it ended up being. They're going to need to be that Utah team to be able to win. And while thankfully they've built up a really good cushion in the West and they have an easy record, at this point, the one seed is less of a concern, and it's more of a concern if they can continue to be the team, continue to be that 3-point shooting team that's also a defensive juggernaut. Tonight they had an okay game from three, definitely below average, shooting 34% and hitting 15 of 44. So let's just check. 18 of 44. Let me double check that percentage really quick. So if they hit 18 of 44 shots, they're at 41% ish. So had they shot, a bit of an above average, but a solid game from three, then this game's tied. But Bojan had that really rough night from the arc, along with some other players. And I've seen a lot of concern about Bojan. And last year there was the similar concern about Conley, and how even though we had just traded for him and done these things, that we needed to get rid of him because of his lack of performance. This year, I think there's a bit more meat to the Bojan conversation, mainly because the Jazz really are contending for a title this year. They might be a long shot in certain ways, and the Lakers and Clippers are definitely still favorites just because of the star power that they have. If you're Utah, though, it's this season so special that I just, as much as I want to expect it the next few years, it's something that I just don't know if I see happening. So the real question is, can you go out and get someone? I've seen discussion about getting Otto Porter Jr., whether that's in a trade or picking him up off of waiver wires, picking up Harrison Barnes in a trade with the Sacramento Kings. It's always hard for me to make these adjustments, and when a player's not doing well, look to get rid of them as soon as possible. Like, that's something that's difficult, because I never want to overcorrect, like when you're driving, you never want to turn the steering wheel too quick and all of a sudden be in a worse position than the one you were trying to avoid. But this year is something different, just in the sense that the Jazz right now are, have the one seed in their grasps, and all they have to do is win, and they don't have that hard of a schedule to pull out, to do well on, for them to not get that one seed. And then the real question is can you beat the LA teams? Are you going to be able, how much is Phoenix surging? Is Denver going to be a problem like they've shown that they can be for you? So you've got to make a bunch of adjustments. And while I don't want to freak out now, there are some arguments to be made to look at trading Bojan. I think that he really is the piece that, if he's able to click, all of a sudden the Jazz are going to definitely push themselves forward into a team that there's a lot less questions about them being a contender. It's just nights like tonight when he was just so horribly inefficient, where let's see. So it looks like he went to the line twice and overall took 9 shots and he only made 2. So 2 of 9's just not that great, and getting up to 9 points because of the rebounds. Like, if you see him being able to get into that 15, 16 point range, all of a sudden this game is a lot closer. And if he's able to guard better and not keep being exposed, then again, this game's just a bit closer, and all of a sudden it swings in the Jazz's favor. So it's concerning, and the question is, how much of it is his injury? How much of it is, maybe last year being a bit of a fluke? And I don't think it's necessarily last year being a fluke, but will he ever truly come back from his wrist injury? And will he truly ever be able to be the dominant shooter like he was last year? what really hurt the Jazz looking at the box score, um, it's actually really hard to believe that the Jazz lost this game looking at the box score. I mean, unless you, of course, you look at just straight field goal makes. And that's the big difference, I guess. It's not hard to believe because the Warriors were so dominant in the field goal making category. And this game basically, well, yeah, sometimes you can make less shots if you make enough threes. The gist of winning is still making more shots than the other team. So really, when you look at fast break points where the Warriors outscored the Jazz by 9, that's just a big place where the Jazz have struggled this year. So while turnovers were even, they both had 14. Those fast break points cost the Jazz. So in the end, it's really disappointing to see such an amazing game by Rudy Gobert be overshadowed by the Jazz just not playing well enough. And I don't want to take anything away from the Warriors because you just had Steph Curry go off for 32 points. You had Draymond Green get a triple-double with, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, and 11 points. You had Andrew Wiggins, I believe, have a season high with 28. And then 16 points from Wiseman and 18 points from Poole. And I'd love to see how many of those points from Wiseman came against Favors, since there definitely is concern with how Favors is playing, and there's a lot of questions about if it's his health. So it'll just be interesting to see. These next few games for the Jazz are really important to show how resilient they are, what changes they can make, and to be able to do what championship winners do, which is overcome adversity. And if we see the Jazz go on another, 10, 15 game stretch where they're at 500 or under it, it's hard for me to see them doing what I thought they could do during the first half of the season. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in on the stream. Sorry for it being kind of late. I had some family stuff today, but Dale will be doing Tuesday's stream after the Boston Celtics game. So please come join us then, and let's hope the Jazz can turn things around. Have a great night.